Hyperloop is not heading to Morocco yet, but who knows after they saw that. A lot of tremendous development actually going on in Morocco, and that's the focus now of this session. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome one of the key energy analysts from the International Energy Agency to join us here today, a lady who's been in the region for several years, headed up Reuters Bureau, Platts Bureau, Mead Bureau. She's been a journalist in this space. She knows her energy inside out. And now, of course, she is working in the administrator of the Middle East and North Africa desk for the Global Energy Policy Division of the International Energy Agency. So we're thrilled she's back in the region. Kate Dorian, I'm going to leave it to you and get your panel up here and get started. Kate.
Yes, as I said, we have a short period of time, but considering that Morocco actually managed to get 98% electricity access from less than 20% in about 20 plus years, it is an amazing achievement. So we can do it. So first, to my left is Mr. Saïd Moulin, who's the general manager of the Agence Marocaine d'Efficacité Énergétique, which is the energy efficiency body. And he will be followed by, not in the order in which they are seated, by Mr. Abdelghani Hamadia, who is the, no, sorry, it is going to be Fatima Hamdouche. I'm sorry, they mixed it up. Who is in charge of MASEN, the Moroccan Agency for Renewable Energy, which is responsible now for all renewable energies in Morocco, followed by Mr. Abdelghani Hamada, who is from the Office National des Eaux et de l'Électricité, which is the Moroccan electricity body, followed by Mr. Brahim Ben Bashir, who is from Taka in Morocco, and last but not least, Mr. Yannick Dufault, who is chairman of the board of Al Solan, which is a joint venture with MASEN, I understand. We'll be talking about the private sector and its role in the Moroccan energy sector. So, I used to live in Morocco back in the 90s, and I recently went back and I found it amazing. I think the energy program in Morocco is highly impressive. They have achieved their renewable targets for they are close to achieving their renewable targets that were set for 2020. And I think in some places they've even exceeded them. They have an energy efficiency program. They are still heavily dependent on fossil fuels, but it is extremely impressive. And when you go there, you see, these Moroccan agencies like AME and MASEN and IRSN and all the other agencies that are involved in either research and development and renewable energy and energy efficiency, and they are dedicated. There is a desire, and I think a lot of it is because there is it's all policy driven, and you have strong support from the leadership, from the king in Morocco, and I think it filters down, and it's really, really evident just how much progress has been made. And that is why Morocco is actually now the only country in the Middle East and North Africa that is an association country of the International Energy Agency, which means that they actually benefit from a lot of the data and the expertise that the IEA members get. So we are very, very happy to have welcomed them. And I'm not going to speak anymore because we have very little time, but I am going to now allow Mr. Moulin to give his short presentation.
Thank you, Kate. I would like, first of all, to thank all the organizers, and I'm really glad to be here at the World Future Energy Summit, especially this year where, for the first time, I think there is a strong also commitment for energy efficiency. As you know, in all energy transition, we have two axes, one linked to renewable, the other one linked to energy efficiency. They have to be done at the same time. It's very important. We just finished the COP22 in Marrakesh, and of course, we want all countries to reach their NDCs. The cheapest way, the fastest way of reaching these NDCs is also with energy efficiency. I'm at the head of this agency, the Moroccan Agency for Energy Efficiency, but we have a strategy since 2009. Kate, you said it. The King's letter was very clear: priority to renewable energy and energy efficiency in our energy strategy. Objective to reach the 52% for renewable energy, 20% of energy efficiency in 2030, comparing to business as usual. So it's very important to have those things in mind. The agency has, of course, to develop energy efficiency in industry, transport, housing, public lighting, agriculture. All those sectors are concerned by energy efficiency. And you need to develop legislations. You need to develop support, technical and financial support. And you need sensibilization and training. So for all those sectors, we have these approaches. Some results. We have now a law for buildings. For when we have to build any sector, for offices or for personal buildings, you need to respect some rules, some thermal rules. So that's what we developed as a legislation. We also had a tool today, a supporting tool, called MORCEF, Moroccan Sustainable Energy Financial Facility, developed with local banks. We started with $80 million just to support the industry to develop energy efficiency. In 6 months, $20 million were used, and it's very important that this policy is linked also to one very important point in our strategy. We are stopping subsidizing fossil fuel. So the price, the domestic price, is very important in all those sectors, for renewable, for energy efficiency. If you have the policy, you can have the economy of the policy as soon as you have a domestic price at a certain level. It's only now for a farmer in Morocco to switch from diesel pump to solar pump, only 4 years payback. It took 10 years payback before. It's because we had this policy with the Ministry of Energy and Mines and Environment that is really pushing for having the right price of energy, then renewables, energy efficiency can be developed in economic way. You need support, you need training, you need, and for the farmers, for example, we developed a training center in Marrakesh where we are supporting small companies to develop installators in PV, for solar pumps. To develop installators of solar pumps in farmers. So that's how we have many jobs created, and also how we reached now 10,000 solar pumps also all over the country, developed in a private way, as soon as we developed also with the local banks, the Crédit Agricole, who's financing also those technical and this new technical projects. One thing also is also sensibilization. Energy efficiency is not only a matter of technology, it's also a matter of behavior. And you need to sensibilize people how to develop, how to react, how to act sometimes when they decide to invest or they decide to invest in any tool. And of course, regulation is very important. That's why we have all those tools developed today. It's all those points that are linked, and 20% of energy efficiency, look at all the impact on the economy, all the impact on the energy bill. Morocco is very energy dependent country, you mentioned it, but it's very important, all the impact, economic impact, and of course, the environmental impact, especially in cities. When you're talking about transport, we are having a program today for taxi drivers. They can switch from old cars to new cars, very more efficient cars. So they're developing, and the government is supporting them to switch from old cars to new cars. So, and also to look at all the possibilities. We should, at the same time we are developing all those big renewable energy projects that Mazen will present, I would like to say that we have at the same time stop wasting energy for economical reasons, for social reasons, and for environmental reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moline. Yes, we do say at the IEA that energy efficiency is the first fuel, and I believe that you have removed subsidies. In fact, you were far more successful than, unfortunately, Mexico has been in removing subsidies. But butane, I think, remains a problem. And because Morocco still relies on fossil fuel imports for about more than 90% of its needs, I think the figure could be lower, but I think the closure of the Samir refinery has resulted in more imports of refined products. So renewables are really important, and I think at the moment they're concentrated mainly in the power sector, but there is an opportunity, I think, to go beyond the power generation system into transport. I think is 60% of your total energy consumption. So I think Mazen, Hamdouche maybe can tell us about Mazen's plans to expand. Do you want me to do this? Or for you?
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here for this 10th conference of the World Future Energy Summit and to talk about renewable energy deployment in Morocco. So as it was mentioned, in the case of Morocco, excuse me, how to write this way?
Just gave it to me, but I think it's probably this way.
Okay,
There you go.
good.
Just the big one. Thanks. Big one.
So in the case of Morocco, the strategic decision to develop renewable energy was a necessity, considering its dependency on energy imports. On the other hand, we are facing increasing energy demand to continuously support the development of the country, being on the economic side, but also on the social side. So, and there was also a clear vision at the highest level of the state that this development needed to be sustainable and that needs to take into consideration its impact on the environment. So it is in that context that the strategy was launched in 2009 by His Majesty the King Mohammed VI with very clear and ambitious objectives. So for renewable energies, the first objective was to reach 42% of installed capacity by 2020, and it has been recently increased to 52% by 2030 at last COP 2021. And that is, we believe, clearly one of the key success factors when implementing such project. You need support at the highest level, you need a clear and right vision, and you need clear and ambitious targets. Another key element is having the right legal framework and support from the parties. So for that, several laws were put in place to develop renewable energies, Law 1309, that allows also the private to develop renewable energy projects, and the law for Mazen creation, which was initially engaged to develop solar projects and has recently been amended so that the scope is enlarged to all renewable energy. So what I wanted to do today is just focus on two main specificities for the solar plant deployment, and I think most of the principles using so far, because we believe that the success cannot be of those projects cannot happen with all the socio-economic impacts that they can provide. And the second subject would be the risk approach that has been taken in order to have all best actors around the table. So for the integrated approach, beyond electricity production, Mazen also contributes, of course, with other partners and all the ministries that are in charge, to the development of the industry, to have local industry be involved also in such projects. It's also important to have an inclusive development of local development, so the areas where projects are implemented, we believe that these areas should also benefit from such projects. And of course, all the R&D and resource qualification that is required to go further in the performance of such technologies. So on the industry side, one of the actions that was taken was to encourage the developers to provide an industrial integration offer that then became binding after the selection process. This was materialized, for example, in our first projects, NOR 1, NOR 2, and 3, to offers that reaches 35% of the capex that is actually done in Morocco. Another action is what you see here is the creation of a cluster, which is a network of renewable energy actors, and really aims to foster industrial companies, Moroccan companies' competitiveness and increase their innovation capacities. So I really invite every investors that wants to look at Morocco to go through that cluster to get as much information on local companies and what we can do in Morocco. The local development, as I mentioned, because usually the projects are developed in areas where the socio-economic conditions are below national averages. It's sites that are not close to cities, that are not agricultural vocation sites. So we had conducted several actions, again with local partners, and to first of all improve access to basic infrastructure. So in the case of Ouarzazate, we had contributed to development of roads and the access to potable water. In terms of social activities, also some actions were taken in the field of education, health, culture, and then on the employment side, of course, to make sure that as much as possible to encourage local employment and entrepreneurship. R&D is also key, as I mentioned previously, especially when considering the potential of innovation, of improvement of the renewable energy technology, and it is really crucial for its competitiveness improvement. So Mazen actively contributes to the deployment of applied and pre-operational research. So for that, we have many partnerships with several institutions and also a platform in Ouarzazate that can host and that already hosts demonstration projects. So very quickly, I'm not sure about the time, but the second point that I also wanted to cover is how we did implement such project and what is the model that was taken to try and manage as much as possible and the risk part of the projects. Oops, this is animated. So the way it was done is that Mazen took several roles in implementing such projects in order to, as much as possible, provide a plug-and-play solution to the developers and have them focus on their core activities to have risks at the end not impact the price and the cost of electricity. So Mazen is the off-taker of the electricity and purchases electricity from the SPC, and we sell it to ONI, which is the national grid operator. So that's one of the roles. Mazen is also the lender and contributes to mobilize additional funding when required. And this was very important for the project as we could beneficiate from the state guarantee and therefore concessional loans, which allowed to have a good impact on the price as well. Mazen is also shareholders in the SPCs and the O&M companies, and a land provider. So the developer, when the developer comes, the site is already selected because of many qualification criteria, and it is also completely connected. So all the infrastructures is also taken in charge by Mazen for water adduction, for example, and with ONI for the electricity transport, as well as other infrastructure that are developed on site. The project structuring, I think we mentioned it quickly. It's more its impact in terms of, because at the end, it's the impact of the lending cost, the cost of capital. So the financing structure really helped in Oran, for example, to reduce the price of, it was estimated at 30% of the price because of this lending, retrocessing concessional loans, and we're also looking at other new mechanisms like green bonds for the latest projects. And finally, having a clear and methodology and clear process so that developers, investors have a clear visibility of the next steps and where we're heading. So very quickly, some pictures of what happened for Mazen so far. The development of the Ouarzazate complex, with all the infrastructures that are in place, water, road, drainage, fences for security, electricity, and telecom. NOR1, which is a 160 megawatt CSP plant that is currently under operation, and I see Patty here, so it's the construction, operation, and maintenance is led by a consortium led by Aqua Power. With the 400, so far, the cumulative production is of 400 gigawatt-hour, with all the emission that could be avoided, and as I mentioned before, an industrial integration that get over 30%. The next two projects that are currently under development are Node 2 and Node 3, also CSP projects with a new technology, which is the tower, and also a new system of dry cooling, excuse me. And Node PV1, which is the next phase, which is a photovoltaic projects, which will complete the Nord Ouarzazate complex and also have two other sites in La Une and Bouche d'Or, and it's currently under financial close. So what's next definitely is to continue developing the solar projects. The next complex, which is under pre-qualification, is the Nord Middels complex. Continue developing also all the wind integrated programs with the 850 megawatt that is currently also under financial close, and also look at projects that could be developed in the hydro energy, which is all the three are currently projects engaged to reach the 2020 targets and have then a more detailed roadmap to have the 230,000 target achieved, and looking at all the synergies that could happen between those three technologies when deploying projects. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Fatima. We are now going to have to go into Hyperloop mode and go very fast because we're running out of time, but I think they're not going to kick us off the stage because we do have 3 more speakers. So I'm going to now give it to Mr. Hamadia, who is from the Office National des Eaux et de l'Électricité. I think you won't have very few minutes because that's the clock. And it's ticking. Well, we waited, so others can wait too, right?
Okay. ONE is a public utility for electricity and water. And within the framework of the National Energy Strategy, ONE has developed the master plan for renewable integration in the Moroccan grid system. So this is the subject of my talk. And I hope in this very limited time to provide you with relevant information and data about Moroccan power system. Okay.
It's not moving. I don't know why it's not moving. Can somebody from technical come and look at this? We have a problem. No, there's an issue with the clicker. No, it's that one, the one that was working before. Voila. No. There is a problem, I told you. Stop the timer, yeah, stop the clock, please. But I think one of also the successes of the fact that there has been this penetration of renewables is the fact that there is an enabling environment, and I think recently there was a decree.
Okay.
You can do it now. The clicker, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Time.
So shortly, the first part of my presentation is basically an overview of the Moroccan electric system. And then I will present the core of my speech, that is the renewable integration. More specifically, the renewable potential and the target set for medium and long-term renewable integration. And finally, I conclude with some key factors that support and make easy such integration.
Give me 5 minutes.
So firstly, in 2016, electricity consumption of the Moroccan system amounted to 35.4 terawatt-hour, representing an average rate of 6%. The peak demand recorded an historical value never recorded in the past, that is 6,050 megawatt. And for electricity supply in the rural areas overruns 99.42%. And finally, the per cap electricity consumption has evolved about 4.4% and stand at 900 kilowatt hour per cap. By the end of 2016, installed capacity of the generation system reached 8,254 megawatts, from which 66% comes from thermal power plants, 21% from hydropower, and the remainder, that is some 13%, comes from wind and solar energy. The national grid system is connected currently with Spain and Algeria. And the available capacity with Spain is about 1,400 megawatt, and with Algeria about 1,500 megawatt. Two others future projects under studies. A feasibility study with Portugal launched last year, and another with Mauritania is under study. Quickly, Morocco has a great potential for renewable energy, and the first estimate gave rise to about 25 gigawatt for wind energy and 20 gigawatt for solar. And within the framework of national energy strategy, two targets are set for medium term, that is by 2020, that define about 42% of installed capacity comes from renewables. And the long-term target by 2030, about 52% comes from renewables. Now, I will start with the renewable integration, and the main characteristic of renewable energy is its variability and its intermittence. And this is an illustrative example that reports what exactly happened in the Tarfaya wind farm last October. So what we can conclude, that the wind farm went down from its maximum capacity to 0 megawatt in no more than 1 hour. So the fast slowdown. And in this case, the system has to keep spinning in reserve about 300 megawatt to overcome the shutdown of wind farms. And shutdown doesn't result from outage, just from resource. There is the wind doesn't blow. Another illustrative example with regard to solar. So the amber curve is the solar wind, the green is the wind, the energy, and the blue is the residual demand. That is the load demand from which we have subtracted wind and solar energy. So the important point that I would like to figure out in this figure is just after sunset time, the solar PV is shut down, is off, And the load is increasing fastly to reach the peak, the evening peak. So in 1 hour, we have a sharp gradient to meet the demand. So we need really flexibility from the thermal, conventional, and hydro power plants. So in our master plan, we have developed necessary flexibility to ensure secure and reliable integration of renewables, and can be summarized: flexibility from interconnection with Spain and the future projects under study, and flexibility from hydropower that amount to about 1,000 megawatts with reservoir, and pumping storage hydro plant totaling about 1,400 megawatts. And the project to gas to power, about 2,400 megawatts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm very sorry to have to rush you, but we keep adding time to the clock. So before we finish, we're going to be hearing from Mr. Ben Bashir of Taka, Morocco. 2 minutes, because we've already, or 3.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm really pleased, and as Taka company, to provide the developer point of view in terms of Morocco attractiveness, in terms of energy opportunities. So quickly, Taka Morocco is controlled by Abu Dhabi National Energy Company, and providing today more than 50% of energy production in Morocco. We are listed on the Casablanca Stock Exchange since 2014, and today our strategy is to capture the market, grow in Morocco, and diversify our portfolio. So quickly, I would say that in terms of opportunities, Morocco, there is a perfect fit basically on the company that wants to develop and diversify its portfolio, and opportunities provided by Morocco. There is various projects in terms of size you can develop. There is legal schemes, different legal schemes to develop projects for small scales. There is a private law, and there is also classical IPPs for bigger projects. You have different technologies, wind, solar, hydro, and different risk profile projects in terms of risk return acceptance from every developer. So I would focus, I would say, as an international developer. For example, if you're looking for a project with a low profile risk and return profile, you can, for example, I would say, answer to tenders with the classical IPP tenders offered by Morocco. These tenders has, I would say, a proven track records now for 15 years in conventional power plants, but also in renewables, wind and solar. And this basically this classical IPP, I would say, scheme has a proven track record. And this is eased by the fact that today ONE Mazen are usually pre-securing, I would say, a financing package from international lenders, and also we have local mature markets that can absorb the demand of this project in terms of liquidity, expertise, and also the emission, for example, of the green bonds by major lenders in Morocco to address the energy project. So these, I would say, provide assurance to developers that projects are bankable and they can spend more time on the optimization of EPC costs and tariff, etc., rather than looking for financing. So this is what are looking to be exposed to, I would say, a sovereign risk, but you can also look for more, I would say, high return, high risk projects with the private law. And there is today truly, I would say, free market in renewable energy in Morocco thanks to the private law. You can directly look for your to find your clients and develop your project and have high returns and be exposed not to sovereign risk, but I would say credit-worthy big corporations in Morocco. So Morocco choose not to put any feed-in tariff because we see the experiences in terms of market distortion speculation, etc. So with this, now you go and fight for your tariff, you're sure that your project will find the right, I would say, client in front of you. So you're not just building a project and waiting for a feed-in tariff. And, but in order to ease the bankability, the government also, I would say, put as a backup ONE to buy, and, for example, 20% of any backup product to ease and assure bankability. And this private law today have a pretty proven track record. We have, I would say, 300 megawatts in operation, more than 100 megawatts in construction, and more than 500 megawatts in development and financial close. So, so as you can see, you can be exposed to different type of projects, and this is for renewable. But as it has been seen previously, there is also the development of the base load, and it's really important to understand today, as we don't have interconnected, I would say, grid with Europe and Africa, enough developed to absorb as many renewable power as we want, and waiting for the development of storage and maturity of storage systems. We need the base load from conventional plants, especially gas generation, to be able to absorb and deal with the volatility of the renewable energies. So today as TACA, as I said, we are developing project. We will obviously respond to tenders in future tenders launched by MAS and ONE. We are currently developing a 200 megawatt wind farm in North under the private law, and we have just responded to the request of interest launched by the government for the gas to power project. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Sorry for rushing you, but I did want to give Yannick a chance, because I think access in Africa, yes, access in Africa is important, and you've got a solution.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the American solar plan. Just before I'm going to show you what we do, let me tell you why we do and why we've been striving for promoting our technology. We truly believe that thermal power, the heat produced by a solar field and the concentrated solar power plant technology based upon the Fresnel technology can contribute to cost saving for the industrial application, but also to make life better in remote areas. What does that mean, remote areas? Well, there is no grid. 600 million people just in Africa without power, probably without good condition to live, probably without tap water. It means that for us, we consider that there is an opportunity to do something, and that's why we are believing in what we do. Very briefly, we ran in 2009 in a very large R&D program that led to 2 pilots that we have built. I'm going to show you a picture in a few seconds. What do? We simultaneously, with a concentrated solar power plant based on the Fresnel technology, as I said, we provide, again, simultaneously electricity, heat for industrial application, desalinated water, and solar cooling. What does that mean, solar cooling? It means air conditioning or ice. And again, I would like to emphasize on the fact that we are able to provide that simultaneously, which is quite innovative and which is quite what we think one solution, not the only solution, amongst others, a solution for the remote areas, and that's what we do. Just before to show you the picture, maybe you can... I just have one slide because I have 1 minute. So, I'm supposed to...
I don't know if they've got it. Yeah, there it is.
No, that's not me.
That's not you. Oh, I think
I'm going to fail. If someone may help you. So,
oh, there we are.
here we go. That's a picture of one of our pilots in the south of France. And as you can see again, we want to address the semi-isolated areas. We want to address the industrial application. And as the heart of our system, we have designed a patented solution which consists to store the heat with the oil of the fluid that we use in our concentrated solar power plant. So again, where we stand right now, we belong to two shareholders, Mazen. Mazen looked at what we have done and came on board and took 50% of the company in June 2015. The other shareholders is the Alsan Group, which is an industrial French group. And right now we are discussing with both one industrial who is a ceramic provider, and we have also a discussion with another customer.
Thank
Is
you
it
very
short?
much. Are you? Yeah,
I'm done.
I'm so sorry, there is no time for questions, but energy access solutions for Africa is